Adventure 1, A Scandal in Bohemia, from the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Ruth Golding. A Scandal in Bohemia. To Sherlock Holmes, she is always the woman. I have seldom heard him mention her under any other name. In his eyes she eclipses and predominates the whole of her
to Sherlock
sex.
Holmes, she is always the woman.
It was not that
My
he felt
marriage had
any
drifted us
emotion
away from
akin
each
to
other.
love
My
for
own complete
Irene
happiness was a
Adler.
bar between us.
All emotions, and that one particularly, were abhorrent to his cold, precise, but admirably balanced mind. He was, I take it, the most perfect reasoning and observing machine that the world has seen. But as a lover, he would have placed himself in a false position. He never spoke of the softer passions, save with a jibe and a sneer. They were admirable things for the observer, excellent for drawing the veil from men's motives and actions. But for the trained reasoner to admit such intrusions into his own delicate and finely adjusted temperament was to introduce a distracting factor, which might throw a doubt upon all his mental results.
My heart yearned for his
Grit in a sensitive instrument, or a crack in one of his own high-power lenses, would not be more disturbing than a strong emotion in a nature such as his. And yet there was but one woman to him, and that woman was the late Irene Adler, of dubious and questionable memory. I had seen little of Holmes lately. My marriage had drifted us away from each other. My own complete happiness and the home-centred interests which rise up around the man who first finds himself master of his own establishment were sufficient to absorb all my attention, while Holmes, who loathed every form of society with his whole Bohemian soul, remained in our lodgings in Baker Street, buried among his old books, and alternating from week to week between cocaine and ambition, the drowsiness of the drug and the fierce energy of his own keen nature. He was still, as ever, deeply attracted by the study of crime, and occupied his immense faculties and extraordinary powers of observation in following out those clues, and clearing up those mysteries which had been abandoned as hopeless by the official police. From time to time I heard some vague account of his doings. For example, of his summons to Odessa in the case of the Trepoff murder, of his clearing up of the singular tragedy of the Atkinson brothers at Trincomalee, and finally of the mission which he had accomplished so delicately and successfully for the reigning family of Holland. Beyond these signs of activity, however, which I merely shared with all the readers of the daily press, I knew little of my former friend and companion. One night, it was on the 20th of March, 1888, I was returning from a journey to a patient, for I had now returned to civil practice, when my way led me through Baker Street.
A letter, Mr. Holmes.
As I passed the well-remembered door, which must always be associated in my mind with my wooing, and with the dark incidents of the study in scarlet, I was seized with a keen desire to see Holmes again, and to know how he was employing his extraordinary powers. His rooms were brilliantly lit, and even as I looked up, I saw his tall, spare figure pass twice in a dark silhouette against the blind. He was pacing the room swiftly, eagerly, with his head sunk upon his chest and his hands clasped behind him. To me, who knew his every mood and habit, his attitude and manner told their own story. He was at work again. He had risen out of his drug-created dreams and was hot upon the scent of some new problem. I rang the bell
The game
and was shown
is
up to the
afoot.
chamber which had formerly been in part my own.
This is indeed a
His
mystery.
manner was not
What do
effusive.
you make of it?
It seldom was. But he was glad, I think, to see me. With hardly a word spoken, but with a kindly eye, he waved me to an armchair, threw across his case of cigars, and indicated a spirit
You miss
case
the
and a
details,
gazogene in the
my
corner.
dear Watson.
Then he stood before the fire and looked me over in his singular introspective fashion.
The game is well and
"Wedlock
truly
suits you,"
afoot.
he remarked. "I think, Watson, that you have put on £7.5 since I saw you." "7," I answered.
well-to-do.
"Indeed, I should have thought a little
The
more.
handwriting is that of a man of
Just a
business.
trifle more, I fancy,
I must ask you to
Watson.
stay, my dear fellow.
And in
Your
practice
presence
again,
will
I
be
observe.
invaluable. I
You
am
did
lost
not tell
without my
me that you
Boswell.
intended to go into harness." "Then how did you know?" "I see it. I deduce it.
It is
How
a
do I
Bohemian
know
paper
that you have been getting
made
yourself
in
very
the
wet
Kingdom of
lately,
Bohemia.
and that you have a most clumsy and careless servant girl?"
A masked nobleman,
"My dear Holmes," said I, "this is too much. You would certainly have been burned had you lived a few centuries ago. It is true that I had a country walk on Thursday and came home in a dreadful mess, but as I have changed my clothes, I can't imagine how you deduce it. As to Mary Jane, she is incorrigible, and my wife has given her notice, but there again I fail to see how you work it out." He chuckled to himself and rubbed his long nervous hands together. "It is simplicity itself," said he. "My eyes tell me that on the inside of your left shoe, just where the firelight strikes it, the leather is scored by 6 almost parallel cuts. Obviously they have been caused by someone who has very carelessly scraped round the edges of the sole in order to remove crusted mud from it. Hence you see my double deduction that you had been out in vile weather, and that you had a particularly malignant, boot-slitting specimen of the London slavey. As to your practice, if a gentleman walks into my room smelling of iodoform, with a black mark of nitrate of silver upon his right forefinger, and a bulge on the right side of his top hat, to show where he has secreted his stethoscope, I must be dull indeed if I do not pronounce him to be an active member of the medical profession." I could not help laughing at the ease with which he explained his process of deduction.
As I understand.
"When I hear you give your reasons," I remarked, "the thing always appears to me to be so ridiculously simple that I could easily do it myself, though at each successive instance of your reasoning I am baffled until you explain your process. And yet I believe that my eyes are as good as yours."
It told you
"Quite
that I
so,"
would call.
he answered, lighting a cigarette and throwing himself down into an armchair.
Stay, Watson.
"You see, but you do not observe. The distinction is clear. For example, you have frequently seen the steps which lead up from the hall to this room." "Frequently? How often?" "Well, some hundreds of times." "Then
My dear
how many
Count,
are there?"
Your theories are
"How many?
certainly
I don't know." "Quite so.
illuminating.
You have not observed.
If you would be so kind as to
And
be
yet you
seated
have
and state your
seen.
case,
That is
I
just
should be
my
better able
point.
to advise you.
Now, I know that there are
Or would your
17
Majesty prefer
steps,
to address me
because
in
I
person?
have both seen and observed.
What?
By the way, since you are interested in these little problems, and since you are good enough to chronicle one or two of my trifling experiences, you may be interested in this." He threw over a sheet of thick, pink-tinted notepaper which had been lying open upon the table. "It came by the last post," said he.
There
"Read
is
it
no
aloud."
mystery, Your Majesty.
The note was
which you so
undated and
incautiously
without
wrote.
either signature or address.
The phrasing was that of a man
There
who
will
thinks in
call
German.
upon you
A
tonight
Frenchman or
at a
Russian
quarter
would
to
not have
8
written so.
o'clock, it
Only a
said.
German is so uncourteous
A
in his
gentleman who
verbs.
desires
Your
to
appearance,
consult
sir,
you
your
upon a matter of the
magnificent
very
stature, and your
deepest
air of
moment.
absolute command could only
Your
belong to
recent
one man
services
in
to one
all
of the royal
Bohemia.
houses of Europe have shown that you are one who may safely be trusted with matters which are of an importance which can hardly be exaggerated. This account of you
You
we
are
have
right.
from all quarters
I
received.
am the king.
Be in your chamber then
The
at that
notepaper,
hour,
with its
and do
watermark,
not take it
told
amiss
me
if
you
your
were from
visitor wear a
Bohemia.
mask. This is indeed a mystery, I remarked. What do you imagine that it means? I have no data yet. It is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. Insensibly, one begins to twist facts to suit theories, instead of theories to suit facts. But the note itself, what do you
Indeed,
deduce from
my
it?
errand is of such a delicate
I
nature
carefully
that I have
examined
been
the
forced
writing
to
and
take
the
these
paper upon which it was written. The man who wrote it was presumably well-to-do, I remarked, endeavouring to imitate my companion's processes. Such paper could not be
I
bought
am
under
the
half a
King
crown a
of
packet.
Bohemia.
It is
I am
peculiarly
Wilhelm
strong and
Gottschalk
stiff.
Sigismund von Ormstein, Grand Duke of
Peculiar, that is the
Cassel-Felstein
very
and
word,
hereditary King
said
of
Holmes.
Bohemia.
It is not an English paper at all. Hold it up to the light. I did so, and saw a large E with a small g, a P and a large G with a small t, woven into the texture of the paper. What do you make of that? Asked Holmes.
Delicate one.
The name of
If
the
it were
maker,
to be
no
made
doubt, or
public,
his monogram,
it was a
rather.
scandal so great that it
Not
would
at
touch
all.
the very history of
The
my
G
royal
with the
house.
small t stands for
Pray be
Gesellschaft,
seated, Your Majesty.
which is the
Let
German
us
for
discuss
company.
this delicate matter.
It is a customary contraction, like our co.
It began
P, of course,
5
stands
years
for
ago.
Papier. Now for the EG. Let us glance at our Continental Gazetteer. He took down a heavy brown volume from his shelves. Egloff, Eglonit. Here we are, Egria. It is in a German-speaking country, in Bohemia, not far from Carlsbad. Remarkable as being the scene of the death of Wallenstein, and for its numerous glass factories and paper mills. Ha ha, my boy, what do you make of that? His eyes sparkled, and he sent up a great blue triumphant cloud from his cigarette. The paper was made in Bohemia, I said. Precisely. And the man who wrote the note is
Her
a
name
German.
is Irene Adler.
Do you note the peculiar construction
American.
of the sentence? This
An
account of
adventuress.
you we have from all quarters received. A Frenchman or Russian could not have written that. It is the German who is so uncourteous to his verbs. It only remains, therefore, to discover what is wanted by this German who writes upon Bohemian paper and prefers wearing a mask to showing his face. And here he comes, if I am not mistaken,
Irene.
to resolve all our doubts. As he spoke, there was the sharp sound of horses' hoofs and grating wheels against the curb,
Mind of the most
followed by a
resolute
sharp
of men.
pull at the bell. Holmes whistled.
She has the
A
face
pair
of a
by
woman
the sound,
and the soul
said
of a
he.
devil.
Yes,
She is the queen
he continued,
of all
glancing
blackmailers.
out of the window. A
I
nice
would have
little
given one of my
brougham and a
provinces
pair
to
of
have her as my
beauties.
queen.
£150
had she been on my
guineas
level.
apiece. There's money in this case, Watson, if there is nothing else. I think that I had better go, Holmes. Not a bit,
In a
Doctor.
moment of folly,
Stay
I
where
made
you
the
are.
mistake of writing
I
several
am lost
compromising letters
without
to
my
her
Boswell.
on my
And
private
this
note
promises to be interesting. It would be a pity to miss it. But your client? Never mind him. I may want your help, and so may he. Here he comes. Sit down in that armchair, Doctor, and give us your best attention.
and worse.
A slow and
worse.
heavy step which had been heard upon the stairs and in the passage, paused immediately outside the door. Then there was a loud and authoritative tap. "Come in," said Holmes. A man entered who could hardly have been less than 6 feet 6 inches in height, with the chest and limbs of a Hercules.
And I have failed.
His dress was rich with a richness which would, in England, be looked upon as akin to bad taste. Heavy bands of astrakhan were slashed across the sleeves and fronts of his double-breasted coat, while the deep blue cloak, which was thrown over his shoulders, was lined with flame-coloured silk, and secured at the neck with a brooch which consisted of a single flaming beryl. Boots which extended halfway up his calves, and which were trimmed at the tops with rich brown fur, completed the impression of barbaric opulence which was suggested by his whole appearance. He carried a broad-brimmed hat in his hand, while he wore across the upper part of his face, extending down past the cheekbones, a black vizard mask, which he had apparently adjusted that very moment, for his hand was still raised to it as he entered. From the lower part of the face he appeared to be a man of strong character, with a thick hanging lip and a long straight chin suggestive of resolution pushed to the length of obstinacy.
"You had my note?"
he asked, with a deep, harsh voice and a strongly marked German accent.
"I told you that I would call."
He looked from one to the other of us, as if uncertain which to address. "Pray take a seat," said Holmes. "This is my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson, who is occasionally good enough to help me in my cases. Whom have I the honour to address?"
"You may address me as the Count von Kamm, a Bohemian nobleman. I understand that this gentleman, your friend, is a man of honour and discretion, whom I may trust with a matter of the most extreme importance.
You will not marry her with
If
her.
not, I should
will
much
not
prefer
permit
to
it.
communicate with you alone."
I rose to go, but Holmes caught me by the wrist and pushed me back into my chair. "It is both or none," said he. "You may say before this gentleman anything which you may say to me." The Count shrugged his broad shoulders.
"Then I must begin," said he, "by binding you both to absolute secrecy for 2 years. At the end of that time, the matter will be of no importance. At present, it is not too much to say that it is of such weight it may have an influence upon European history."
"I promise," said Holmes.
"And I. You will excuse this mask,"
continued our strange visitor.
"The august person who employs me wishes his agent to be unknown to you. And I may confess at once that the title by which I have just called myself is not exactly my own."
Impossible.
"I was aware of it," said
The
Holmes
writing
dryly.
is my own.
"The circumstances are of great delicacy, and every precaution has to be taken to quench what might grow to be an immense
You
scandal
are sure that
and
you have not
seriously
been indiscreet in
compromise
your
one of the
letters?
reigning families of
Is
Europe.
forgery a possibility?
To speak plainly,
And the
the
photograph?
matter implicates the
Was it a
great
forgery?
house of Ormstein,
Could it be disowned?
hereditary kings of Bohemia.
Oh, no.
"I was
It was a
also
cabinet
aware of
photograph.
that,"
We were both in
murmured
it.
Holmes,
I was in my
settling
full
himself
uniform as
down
Crown
in his
Prince.
armchair
She-
and closing his eyes. Our visitor glanced with some apparent surprise at the languid, lounging figure of the man who had been, no doubt, depicted to him as the most incisive reasoner and most energetic agent in Europe. Holmes slowly reopened his eyes and looked impatiently at his gigantic client. "If your Majesty would condescend to state your case," he remarked, "I should be better able to advise you." The man sprang from
I
his
have
chair
tried,
and paced up and down the
and I
room in
have failed.
uncontrollable agitation.
She was not
Then,
there, Your
with a
Majesty.
gesture of desperation, he
found
tore
nothing.
the mask from his face and hurled it upon the ground.
You are right,
Been unable
He
to
cried.
recover it.
I am
And
the
now,
king.
the day of the
Why
public
should I
retrieval is
attempt
almost
to
upon us.
conceal it?
You are my last
"Ah, indeed," murmured Holmes. "Your Majesty had not spoken
have, of course,
before I
made
was
efforts to
aware
recover
that
this
I was
photograph?
addressing Wilhelm Gottsreich Sigismund von Ormstein, Grand Duke of Kassel-Felstein and hereditary King of Bohemia,"
This is
But
a
you
truly
can
delightful
understand,
development.
said our strange visitor, sitting down once more and passing his hand over his
I have
high
had her
white
house
forehead.
burgled
You
twice.
can understand that I am not accustomed to doing such business in my own person. Yet the matter was so delicate that I could not confide it to an agent without putting myself in his power. I have come incognito from Prague for the purpose of consulting
5
you.
times my agents have searched
"Then
her home,
pray
her
consult,"
baggage, her person.
said Holmes,
And 5
shutting
times
his
they have
eyes
found
once
nothing.
more.
The facts are briefly these.
here.
Some 5 years ago, during a lengthy visit to Warsaw, I made the acquaintance of the well-known adventuress Irene Adler. The name is no doubt familiar to you.
"Kindly look her up in my index, Doctor," murmured Holmes
We
without
have had
opening
her
his eyes.
waylaid.
For many years he had adopted a system of docketing all paragraphs concerning men and things, so that it was difficult to name a subject or a person on which he could not at once furnish information. In this case I found her biography sandwiched in between that of a Hebrew rabbi and that of a staff commander who had written a monograph upon the deep-sea fishes. "Let me see," said Holmes.
She is too clever,
Born in
Mr.
New Jersey
Holmes.
in the year
Too clever by
1858.
half.
Contralto. La Scala. Prima donna Imperial Opera of Warsaw.
She is on her
Yes.
guard night and day.
Retired
There
from
is no getting
operatic
the best of
stage.
her
Ha!
from ordinary means.
Living in London. Quite so.
I am no longer
Your
a monarch.
Majesty, as I understand,
but a
became
man who
entangled with
desperately
this young
needs your
person.
help.
Wrote her some compromising letters, and is now desirous of getting those letters back.
Precisely so. But how?
Was there a secret marriage?
None.
No legal
You may
papers
act
or
as you see
certificates?
fit. I place
None.
myself entirely in
Then
your
I
hands. Do
fail to
anything,
follow your
anything
Majesty.
at all to get that
If
photograph.
this young person should produce her letters for blackmailing or other purposes, how is she to prove their authenticity?
You will find 300
There
pounds
is
in
the
gold
writing.
and 700 in
Phew,
notes inside.
forgery.
It is yours to cover any
My
expenses.
private notepaper.
Stolen?
Your Majesty may
My
rest
own
easy.
seal.
I shall be in
Imitated.
touch.
My photograph.
Bought?
We were both in the photograph.
Oh dear.
The hunt.
That is very bad. Your Majesty has
hunt
indeed
has
committed
begun.
an indiscretion.
Bryony Lodge,
I was
Serpentine
mad,
Avenue, St.
insane.
John's Wood.
You have compromised yourself seriously.
I was only crown prince
And
then. I
as
was
to the
young.
lady in question?
I am but 30 now.
What is her current
It
address?
must be recovered.
We have tried and failed.
Your Majesty must pay. It must be bought.
She
What
will
is
not
our first
sell.
move, Holmes?
Stolen, then?
5 attempts have been made. Twice burglars in my pay ransacked her house. Once we diverted her luggage when she travelled. Twice she has been waylaid. There has been no result.
No sign of it?
Absolutely
I must go
none.
out now, Watson.
Holmes laughed. It is quite a pretty little problem, said he.
But a very serious one to me.
Returned the king reproachfully. Very indeed. And what does she propose to do with the photograph?
To ruin me.
But how?
I am about to be married.
So I have heard.
to Clotilde Lotman von Saxe-Meiningen, second daughter of the King of Scandinavia. You may know the strict principles of her family. She is herself the very soul of delicacy. A shadow of a doubt as to my conduct would bring the matter to an end.
And Irene Adler?
Threatens to send them the photograph. And she will do it. I know that she will do it. You do not know her, but she has a soul of steel. She has the face of the most beautiful of women and the mind of the most resolute of men. Rather than I should marry another woman, there are no lengths to which she would not go. None.
A copper for a poor
You are
groom,
sure that she has
Governor?
not sent it yet?
I'm sure.
And why?
Because she has said that she would send it on the day when the betrothal was publicly proclaimed. That will be next Monday.
Oh, then we have 3 days yet, said Holmes with a yawn. That is very fortunate, as I have 1 or 2 matters of importance to look into just at present. Your Majesty will, of course, stay in London for the present.
Certainly. You will find me at the Langham under the name of the Count von Kram.
Then I shall drop you a line to let you know how we progress.
Pray do so. I shall be all
Spare a shilling
anxiety.
for an old soldier, Governor.
Then, as to money?
You have
Holmes.
carte blanche.
Absolutely.
I tell you that I would give one of the provinces of my kingdom to have that photograph.
I have seen you do this a dozen
And
times,
for
but
present
you never,
expenses.
ever fail to
The
astonish
king
me.
took a heavy chamois leather bag from under his cloak and laid it on the table.
There are £300 in gold and 700 in notes, he said.
Holmes scribbled a receipt upon a sheet of his notebook and handed it to him. And Mademoiselle's address? He asked.
Is Bryony Lodge, Serpentine Avenue, St. John's
Stables,
Wood.
my dear Watson.
Holmes
The key to a
took a
woman
note of it.
fashion like Miss Adler is
One
often
other
found among
question,
the men who care for
said
her
he.
horses and drive her
Was the
carriages.
photograph a cabinet?
This social network,
It was.
centered around mews and stables,
Then good
was a
night,
vital
Your
source
Majesty.
of information in Victorian
And I
London.
trust that we shall soon have
They
some
hear
good
all the
news
gossip.
for you.
They know all the secrets.
And good night,
As a
Watson,
drunken, out-of-work
he
groom
added
myself,
as the
looking for a
wheels of
job,
the royal
I-
brougham rolled down the street. If
The
you will be
game
good enough to
is
call
afoot,
tomorrow afternoon at
is
3 o'clock, I should like to chat this little matter over with you. End of Part 1 of Adventure 1, A Scandal in
Having left
Bohemia.
you, I made my way to St. John's Wood.
Part 2 of Adventure 1, A Scandal in Bohemia, from The Adventures of Sherlock
difficulty in
Holmes
finding Bryony
by Sir
Lodge.
Arthur Conan Doyle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Ruth Golding. At 3 o'clock precisely I was at Baker Street, but Holmes had not yet returned. The landlady informed me that he had left the house shortly after 8 o'clock in the morning.
my best source of
I sat down beside the fire, however, with the intention of awaiting him, however long he might be. I was already deeply interested in his inquiry, for though it was surrounded
have a
by
drop
none
of
of
this,
the
mate.
grim and
Looks like you need
strange
it.
features which were associated with the 2 crimes which I have already recorded, still the nature of the case and the exalted station of his client gave it a character of its own. Indeed,
you with the horse,
apart
Governor.
from the nature of the
Aye, aye.
investigation which my friend had on hand, there was something in
Well, I
his
got 2
masterly
dozen, didn't I?
grasp of a situation, and his keen, incisive reasoning, which made it a pleasure to me to study his system of work,
The pretty
and to
singer
follow
lady.
the quick, subtle methods by which he disentangled the most
Adler.
inextricable
A
mysteries.
proper beauty she is.
So accustomed was
voice
I to
like
his
an
invariable
angel.
success
Have you seen
that
her
the very
perform?
possibility
She's
of
like a
his
dream,
failing
isn't
had
she?
ceased to enter into my head.
So beautiful and mysterious.
It was close upon
She's
4
the
before the
daintiest
door
thing under a
opened,
bonnet on this
and a
planet.
drunken-looking
certainly
groom, ill-kempt and side-whiskered, with an inflamed face and
by
disreputable
the end of the
clothes,
afternoon,
walked
I knew
into the room.
everything about Miss Irene Adler that
Accustomed
there was
as
to
I
know.
was to my friend's amazing powers in the use of disguises, I had to look 3 times before I was certain that it was indeed he. With a
She
nod,
drives
he
out
vanished
every
into the
day at
bedroom,
5.
whence he emerged in 5 minutes, tweed-suited and respectable as of old.
She returns at 7
Putting
sharp
his
for her
hands into
dinner.
his pockets, he stretched out his legs in front of the fire and laughed heartily for some minutes.
She has her routine.
Well,
Every day,
really?
always
He
at the same
cried,
time.
and then he choked and laughed
She rarely
again
goes out
until
at
he
other
was
times,
obliged to lie
except for
back,
her
limp
performances.
and helpless in the chair. What is it? It's
What about
quite
the men,
too
eh?
funny.
A beauty like that
I'm
must have
sure
a
you
dozen
could never
gentlemen
guess
callers
how I
trailing
employed
after her.
my morning, or what I
Dozens
ended
would
by
if she'd let
doing.
'em. But she don't care
I
for
can't
any-
imagine. I
Except for
suppose
one.
that you have been watching the habits and perhaps
Mr.
the
Godfrey
house of
Norton,
Miss Irene
a lawyer
Adler.
from the Inner Temple.
Quite
Dark,
so.
handsome, and always
But the
dapper.
sequel was rather unusual. I will tell you, however. I left the house a little after 8 o'clock this morning in the character of a
He's been here
groom
every
out
day
of
this
work.
week, you know.
There is a wonderful sympathy
Always for
and
Miss Adler.
Freemasonry among horsey men. Be one of them and you will know all there is to know. I soon found Bryony Lodge.
He calls once
It
a
is
day
a
at least,
bijou
governor.
villa with a garden at
Sometimes
the
twice.
back, but built out in
He's the only
front
one that
right
gets
up to
past
the
front door,
road.
he is.
2 stories. Chubb lock to the door.
Good day,
Large sitting room on the right side, well furnished, with long windows almost to the floor.
So you see, Watson,
And those
The
preposterous
set.
English window fasteners which a child could open.
Oh, they've been here every
Behind
day,
there
then.
was nothing remarkable, save that the passage window could be reached from the top of the coach house. I walked round it and examined it closely from every point of view, but without noting anything else of interest. I then
I was just beginning
lounged
to
down
think
the
that I should be
street and
forced to
found,
leave
as I
when a
expected,
new
that
development
there was a
occurred.
mews in a lane which runs down by one wall of the garden. I lent the ostlers a hand in rubbing down their horses, and received in exchange 2pence, a glass of half and
Blimey,
half,
what a
2
day
fills
this
of
is.
shag tobacco, and as much information as I could desire about Miss Adler,
Is Miss
to
Adler
say
in?
nothing of half a dozen other people in the neighbourhood in whom I was not in the least interested, but whose biographies I was compelled to listen to. "And what of Irene Adler?" I asked. "Oh, she has turned all the men's heads down in that part. She is the daintiest thing under a bonnet on this planet. So say the Serpentine Muse to a man. She lives quietly, sings at concerts, drives out at 5 every day and returns at 7 sharp for dinner. Seldom goes out at other times
You can imagine my
except when she
surprise, Watson.
sings.
Something is afoot,
Has only
I said to
one
myself.
male
The
visitor,
lazy groom was
but a
gone,
good
and the
deal of
hunter
him.
was on the trail.
He is dark, handsome, and dashing, never calls less than once a day, and often twice. He is a Mr. Godfrey Norton of the Inner Temple. See the advantages of a cabman as a confidant. They had driven him home a dozen times from Serpentine Mews and knew all about him. When I had listened to all they had to tell, I began to walk up and down near Bryony Lodge once more, and to think over my plan of campaign.
Oh dear me!
This Godfrey Norton was evidently an important factor in the matter. He was a lawyer.
Anyone.
That
I just
sounded
need anyone.
ominous. What was the relation between them, and what the object of his repeated visits? Was she his client, his friend, or his mistress? If the former, she had probably transferred the photograph to his keeping. If the latter, it was less likely.
It is not possible.
On
I
the
cannot
issue
do it
of this
unless there is a
question
witness.
depended whether I should continue my work at Bryony Lodge, or turn my attention to the gentleman's chambers in the Temple. It was a delicate point, and it widened the field of my inquiry.
Do you take this woman to be your lawfully
I
wedded
fear
wife?
that I bore you with these details,
do.
but I have to let you
Come
see
here, man.
my little difficulties if you are to understand the situation. I am following you closely,
You'll do.
I
Just stand
answered.
here and do as you're told. There's a
I
sovereign
was
in it for
still
you.
balancing the matter in my mind when
Very
a
well,
handsome
if we
cab
must.
drove up to Bryony Lodge, and a gentleman sprang out. He was a remarkably handsome man, dark,
you,
aquiline,
take
and
this woman to be
moustached,
your,
evidently the man
lawfully
of
wedded
whom I
wife?
had heard.
I take
He
thee
appeared to be in a
my
great
wedded
hurry,
I take thee to be
shouted
my
to the
wedded
cabman to wait, and brushed past the maid who opened the door with the air of a man who was thoroughly at home. He was in the house about half an hour, and I could catch glimpses of him in the windows of the sitting-room, pacing up and down, talking excitedly and waving his arms.
Object!
Of her I could see nothing. Presently he emerged, looking even more flurried than before.
I trust you found
As
that
he stepped up to the
illuminating.
cab, he pulled a gold watch from his pocket and looked at it earnestly.
I was left alone. in the
"Drive
church
like
with
the
this
devil,"
as a
he
souvenir
shouted,
of my
first
adventure.
to Gross and Hankey's in Regent
I was
Street,
left alone in the
and
church
then
with
to
a
the
sovereign
Church of
in my
St.
hand.
Monica in the
It is an
Edgware Road.
experience I would not have missed
Half
for the
a
world.
guinea if you do it in 20 minutes. Away they went,
It means
and I
everything.
was just wondering whether I should not do well to follow them, when up the
It was
lane
the
came
most
a neat
preposterous
little
position
landau,
I have
the
ever been
coachman
in
with
my
his coat
life.
only half
The
buttoned
lady
and
is
his
now
tie
married
under
to her
his
lawyer.
ear,
This changes
while all
everything.
the tags of
They
his
will not
harness
wait.
were sticking
They will
out of
flee
the
the country
buckles.
together.
It hadn't pulled up before she shot out of the
So
hall
what does it all
door and
mean,
into
Holmes?
it.
What do you do now?
I only caught a glimpse of her at the
This
moment,
evidence,
but
if it
she
left
was a
England, would be
lovely
lost
woman,
forever.
with a face that a man might die for.
They
"The
may take
Church of St.
photograph with
Monica,
them.
John!"
If it
she
leaves England, it will
cried.
be lost to us
"And
forever.
half a sovereign if you
King's
reach it
marriage
in
will
20
be ruined.
minutes.
Therefore, we
This
cannot
was
wait
quite
until tomorrow
too
as we
good to
planned.
lose,
We
Watson.
must act tonight.
I was
We
just
must
balancing
act
whether I should
immediately.
run for it, or whether I should perch behind her
so?
landau, when a cab came through the street.
What is your plan,
The driver
Holmes?
looked twice at such a shabby fare,
When we are
but I
gripped by
jumped in
fear,
before he could
our
object.
primal
"The
instincts
Church
take
of
over.
St. Monica," said I, "and half a sovereign if you
King's
reach
men
it
have
in
searched
20
her house
minutes."
5 times and found nothing.
It was
because they were
25 minutes to
I will make
12,
her show me
and of
herself.
course it
When a
was
woman
clear
thinks her
enough
house is
what
on
was
fire,
in the wind.
Her instinct is at once to rush
My
to the
cabby
thing she
drove
values
fast.
most.
I don't think I ever drove faster, but the others were there before us. The cab and the landau, with their steaming horses, were in front of the door when
The
I
alarm of fire
arrived.
is an admirable signal.
I
shall
paid the
create
man
a
and
false
hurried
alarm
into
of
the
fire, and the
church.
lady herself will show me the
There
secret
was
hiding
not a
place of the
soul
photograph.
there save
It is
the
a
two whom I had
dangerous
followed,
game,
and a
Holmes.
surpliced
A most
clergyman,
delicious one.
who seemed to be expostulating with them. They were
And
all
now, for
three
my part,
standing in a knot
The
in
worthy
front of the
groom is of
altar.
no use to us.
I
Need a new
lounged
character
up
for
the
this
side
life-giving
aisle,
drama.
like any other idler who has dropped into a church. Suddenly, to my surprise, the three at the altar faced round to me, and Godfrey Norton came running as hard as he could towards me. "Thank God!" he cried. "You'll do. Come, come." "What then?" I asked. "Come, man, come. Only 3 minutes, or it won't be legal." I was half dragged up to the altar, and before I knew where I was, I found myself mumbling responses which were whispered in my ear, and vouching for things of which I knew nothing, and generally assisting in the secure tying up of Irene Adler, spinster, to Godfrey Norton, bachelor. It was all done in an instant, and there was the gentleman thanking me on the one side, and the lady on the other, while the clergyman beamed on me in front. It was the most preposterous position in which I ever found myself in my life, and it was the thought of it that started me laughing just now. It seems there had been some informality about
I
their
trust I looked the
license,
part?
that the clergyman absolutely
Magnificent,
refused
Holmes.
to marry them
You would have
without
made
a
great
witness of
actor
some
had you not
sort,
been a great detective.
and that my lucky appearance saved the bridegroom
Oh,
from having to
Holmes.
sally out into the streets in search of a best man. The bride gave me a
The
sovereign,
stage has
and I
lost
mean
a
to wear it
fine
on my
actor,
watch chain
even as
in memory
science
of
has
the
lost an
occasion.
acute reasoner. When I became a
This is a
specialist
very
in crime.
unexpected turn of affairs, said I. And what then?
Now the time for
Well,
amusement is
I
past,
found
dear
my
Watson.
plans very seriously
And now,
menaced.
Watson,
It
I have
looked
a
as if the
vital
pair
part for you
might
to
take
play
an
in
immediate
tonight's
departure,
proceedings.
and so
We
necessitate
shall
very
gain entry to the
prompt
house,
and energetic
then
measures
we shall
on my
force Irene
part.
Adler to reveal the
At the
photograph's
church
hiding
door,
place without her
however, they
realizing it.
separated,
Good
he
heavens,
driving back
Holmes.
to the temple,
That's a
and
truly
she to her
audacious
own
plan,
house.
but the danger.
I shall drive out in the park at 5 as
It will
usual,
involve
she
some
said,
small
as
element
she
of
left
personal
him.
risk.
I
But I
heard
know that
no
I can
more.
count on you.
They drove away in different directions, and I went off to make my own arrangements.
Have you ever heard
Which
of a
are
plumber's smoke rocket?
some cold beef and a glass of beer, he answered, ringing the bell. I have been too busy to think of food, and I am likely to be busier still this evening. By the way, Doctor, I shall want your cooperation. I shall be delighted.
Convincing and dense
You
volume of
don't
smoke for
mind
several
breaking the
minutes.
law?
Plumbers use them to test
Not
for
in the
leaks in drain
least.
pipes.
Or, in
Nor
our
running
case,
a
for
chance of
creating a
arrest?
most admirable,
Not
yet
in a good
entirely
cause.
harmless illusion
Oh,
of
the
a house on
cause is
fire.
excellent.
Then I am your man.
I was
Your
sure
part in this,
that I
my
might
dear
rely
Watson,
on
is
you.
crucial.
But what is it you wish?
When Mrs. Turner has brought in the tray, I will make it clear to you. Now, he
You
said,
will position
as he
yourself
turned
here,
hungrily on the
in the
simple
street,
fare that our
with a
landlady
view
had
of the
provided.
main sitting-room window.
I must discuss it while I eat, for I have not
You
much
must remain
time.
out of sight.
It is
Concealed
nearly
in the
5
shadows,
now.
but you must keep your
In
eyes
2
fixed
hours
upon
we
that
must
window
be
at
on the
all
scene of
times.
action. Miss Irene, or Madame, rather, returns from her drive at 7. We must
After
be
I
at
have
Bryony
gained entry
Lodge
to the
to
house,
meet her.
by means which you will shortly
And
witness,
what then?
I will contrive to
You
have that
must
sitting-room
leave that
window
to
open.
me. I have already arranged what
I will
is to
then
occur.
raise my hand.
There is
That
only
will be
one
your
point
signal.
on which I must insist.
The
You must
details are
not
crucial, Watson.
interfere,
Every step
come
must be
what
executed
may.
with absolute precision.
You
Our success
understand?
hinges on it.
I
Do
am
not
to
shout
be
it once,
neutral?
but 2
To
or
do
3 times,
nothing
as
whatever.
loudly as your lungs will permit.
There will
Create a
probably be
panic.
some
The
small
moment the rocket is thrown
unpleasantness.
and has
Do
entered the
not
room, you
join
will
in
immediately
it.
raise a cry of
It will end
fire.
in my being conveyed into the
You may
house.
then walk to the end of the
4
street,
or
and
5
I will
minutes
rejoin you in
afterwards,
10
the
minutes.
sitting-room
Your
window
part
will
in the
open.
drama will be over.
You are to station yourself close to that open window.
Yes.
You are to watch me,
The moment
for
you
I
see
will
my
be
hand,
visible to
without
you.
a second's hesitation,
Yes.
you will light the rocket
And when
throw
I
it through the
raise
open
my
window.
hand so,
Strike the cap,
you will
and it
throw
will
into
ignite.
the room what I give you to throw, and will at the same time raise the cry of fire.
It
You
seems a
quite
little
follow
irregular,
me?
Holmes.
Entirely.
It is
Trust
nothing
me,
very
Watson. It
formidable,
is our only
he said,
chance.
taking a
The
long
photograph must be
cigar-shaped roll
located
from
tonight.
his pocket. It is an ordinary
You have it all
plumber's
clear?
smoke rocket, fitted with a cap at
Can
either
you
end to make
do
it
this?
self-lighting. Your task is confined to that. When you raise your cry of fire, it will be taken up by quite a number of people. You may then walk to the end of the street, and I will rejoin you in 10 minutes. I hope that I have made myself clear.
I am
You can
to
rely
remain
on me,
neutral,
Holmes.
to get near the window, to watch you, and at the signal to throw in this object. Then to raise the cry of fire, and to wait you at the corner of the street.
Precisely.
Then you may entirely rely on me.
That is excellent. I think perhaps it is almost time that I prepare for
Good
the
evening,
new role
gentlemen.
I have to play. He disappeared into his bedroom and returned in a few minutes in the character of an amiable and simple-minded nonconformist clergyman.
The drama is about
His broad black hat, his baggy trousers, his white tie, his sympathetic smile and general look of peering and benevolent curiosity were such as Mr. John Hare alone could have equalled.
She will come.
It was not merely that Holmes changed his costume. His expression, his manner, his very soul seemed to vary with every fresh part that he assumed. The stage lost a fine actor, even as science lost an acute reasoner, when he became a specialist in crime.
When I give the signal, rush forward and create
It was 6:15 when we left Baker Street, and it still wanted 10 minutes to the hour when we found ourselves in Serpentine Avenue. It was already dusk, and the lamps were just being lighted as we paced up and down in front of Bryony Lodge, waiting for the coming of its occupant. The house was just as I had pictured it from Sherlock Holmes' succinct description, but the locality appeared to be less private than I expected. On the contrary, for a small street in a quiet neighbourhood, it was remarkably animated. There was a group of shabbily dressed men smoking and laughing in a corner, a scissors grinder with his wheel, 2 guardsmen who were flirting with a nurse girl, and several well-dressed young men who were lounging up and down with cigars in their mouths. "You see," remarked Holmes as we paced to and fro in front of the house, "this marriage rather simplifies matters. The photograph becomes a double-edged weapon now. The chances are that she would be as averse to its being seen by Mr. Godfrey Norton as our client is to its coming to the eyes of his princess. Now the question is, where are we to find the photograph?" "Where indeed?" "It is most unlikely that she carries it about with her. It is cabinet size, too large for easy concealment about a woman's dress. She knows that the king is capable of having her waylaid and searched. 2 attempts of the sort have already been made. We may take it then that she does not carry it about with her." "Where then?" "Her banker or her lawyer. There is that double possibility. But I am inclined to think neither.
The poor
Women
man.
are naturally secretive.
Is he hurt?
And they like to do their own secreting. Why should she hand it over to anyone
badly
else?
hurt?
She could trust her own guardianship, but she could not tell what indirect or political influence might be brought to bear upon a businessman.
He is faint.
Besides,
Bring him
remember
inside at
that
once.
she had resolved to
Bring him
use
into the
it
sitting
within
room.
a few days. It must be where she can lay her hands upon it. It must be in her own house."
"But it has twice been burgled." "Sure, they did not know how to look. But how will you look?"
I will not look.
"What then?"
I will get her to show me.
"But she will refuse."
Bring him some water.
She will not be able to. But I hear the rumble of wheels. It is her carriage. Now, carry out my
What could have
orders
happened?
to the letter."
Such a tragedy.
As he spoke, the gleam of the sidelights of a carriage came round the curve of the avenue. It was a smart little landau which rattled up to the door of Bryony Lodge. As it pulled up, one of the loafing men at the corner dashed forward to open the door in the hope of earning a copper, but was elbowed away by another loafer who had rushed up with the same intention. A fierce quarrel broke out, which was increased by the 2 guardsmen who took sides with one of the loungers, and by the scissors grinder, who was equally hot upon the other side. A blow was struck, and in an instant the lady, who had stepped from her carriage, was the centre of a little knot of flushed and struggling men, who struck savagely at each other with their fists and sticks.
The room is so close.
Holmes dashed into the crowd to protect the lady, but just as he reached her, he gave a cry and
open the window
dropped to
at
the
once.
ground with the blood running freely down his face. At his fall, the guardsmen took to their heels in one direction and the loungers in the other, while a number of better dressed people who had watched the scuffle without taking part in it crowded in to help the lady and to attend to the injured man. Irene Adler, as I will still call her, had hurried up the steps, but she stood at the top, with her superb figure outlined against the lights of the hall, looking back into the street. "Is the poor gentleman much hurt?" she asked.
He's dead!
Cried several voices. "No, no, there's life in him," shouted another.
But he'll be gone before you can get him to hospital.
"He's a brave fellow," said a woman. "They would have had the lady's purse and watch if it hadn't been for him. They were a gang, and a rough one too. Ah, he's breathing now."
He can't lie in the street. May we bring him in, ma'am?
"Surely, bring him into the sitting room. There is a comfortable sofa. This way, please." Slowly and solemnly he was borne into Briony Lodge and laid out in the principal room, while I still observed the proceedings from my post by the window. The lamps had been lit, but the blinds had not been drawn, so that I could see Holmes as he lay upon the couch. I do not know whether he was seized with compunction at that moment for the part he was playing, but I know that I never felt more heartily ashamed of myself in my life than when I saw the beautiful creature against whom I was conspiring, or the grace and kindliness with which she waited upon the injured man. And yet it would be the blackest treachery to Holmes to draw back now from the part which he had entrusted to me. I hardened my heart and took the smoke rocket from under my ulster. After all, I thought, we are not injuring her. We are but preventing her from injuring another. Holmes had sat up upon the couch, and I saw him motion like a man who is in need of air. A maid rushed across and threw open the window.
It's all right.
At the
False
same
alarm.
instant I saw him raise his hand, and at the signal I tossed my rocket into the room with a cry of "Fire!"
It was a false alarm.
The word was no sooner out of my mouth than the whole crowd of spectators, well dressed and ill, gentlemen, ostlers, and servant maids, joined in a general shriek
Your
of
prompt
"Fire!"
kindness saved me, madam. I am
Thick
an old man,
clouds
and
of
the
smoke
shock was too
curled
much for
through
me.
the room and
I
out
feel
at the
much
open
better now.
window. I caught a glimpse of rushing figures, and a moment later the voice of Holmes from within, assuring them that it was a false alarm. Slipping through the shouting crowd, I made my way to the corner of the street, and in 10 minutes was rejoiced to find my friend's arm in
Your
mine,
water, sir.
and to get away from the scene of uproar. He walked swiftly and in silence for some few minutes, until we had turned down one of the quiet streets which lead towards the Edgware Road.
I insist you stay and rest.
"You did
or
it
let me
very
call a
nicely,
doctor.
I must
Doctor,"
politely
he
refuse my
remarked.
apologies for the trouble I
"Nothing
have
could
caused.
have been better. It is all right.
I'm all right.
You have the photograph?
I know where it is."
And how did you find out?
"She showed me, as I told you she would."
I am still in the dark.
"I do not wish to make a mystery," said he,
You
laughing.
did
"The
splendidly, my
matter
dear
was
Watson.
perfectly simple. You, of course, saw that everyone in the street was an accomplice. They were all engaged for the evening.
I guessed as much.
Then, when the row broke out, I had a little moist red paint in the palm of my hand. I rushed forward, fell down, clapped my hand to my face, and became a piteous spectacle. It is an
What a
old
successful
trick.
evening that was.
That also I could fathom.
A most delightful
Then
triumph.
they carried me in. She was bound to have me in. What else could she do? And into her sitting room, which was the very room
Once
which I
inside,
suspected.
I shall simply walk to the
It
secret
lay
recess,
between
take
that
the
and her
photograph,
bedroom,
and the
and
case
I
will be
was
concluded.
determined to see which.
We will return tomorrow morning.
They
We shall go
laid
with
me
the
on a
king himself.
couch. I
will have secured a
motioned for
search warrant
air.
from the police in the
They were
meantime.
compelled
It's all
to
perfectly
open the
legal.
window, and you had your chance. How did that help
Good night,
you?
Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
It was all important.
The game is
When a
afoot.
woman thinks
Indeed,
that her
Holmes.
house is on fire, her instinct is at once to rush to the thing which she values most. It is a perfectly overpowering impulse, and I have more than once taken advantage of it. In the case of the Darlington substitution scandal, it was of use to me, and also in the Arnsworth Castle business. A married woman grabs at her baby, an unmarried one reaches for her jewel box. Now it was clear to me that Our Lady of Today had nothing in the house more precious to her than
Who on
what
earth
we
was
are
that?
in quest of.
And how
She
could you
would
possibly
rush
know
to
your
secure
name?
it. The alarm of fire was admirably done. The smoke and shouting were enough to shake nerves of steel. She responded beautifully. The photograph is in a recess behind a sliding panel just above the right bell pull. She was there in an instant, and I caught a glimpse of it as she half drew it out. When I cried out that it was a false alarm, she replaced it, glanced at the rocket, rushed from the room, and I have not seen her since.
Voice, Watson. I should know it.
I rose and,
But I
making my
cannot
excuses, escaped from the house. I hesitated whether to attempt
Still
to
thinking
secure
about
the
our
photograph at
mysterious
once,
youth, Holmes?
but the coachman had come in, and as he was watching me narrowly, it seemed safer to wait. A little over-precipitance may ruin all.
Well, Mr.
And
Holmes,
now? I
have you
asked.
succeeded?
Our quest
done?
is practically finished.
Let
I
us go
shall
and see
call
Your
with
Majesty.
the king tomorrow, and with you if you care to come with us. We will be shown into the sitting room to wait for the lady, but it is probable that when she comes, she may find neither us nor the photograph. It might be a satisfaction to His Majesty to regain it with his own hands. And when will you call? At 8 in the morning. She will not be up, so that we shall have a clear field. Besides, we must be prompt, for this marriage may mean a complete change in her life and habits. I must wire to the king without delay. We had reached Baker Street and had stopped at the door. He was searching his pockets for the key when someone passing
Open this
said,
instant.
"Good night, Mr. Sherlock Holmes." There were several people on the pavement at the time, but the greeting appeared to come from a slim youth in an ulster who had hurried by. "I've heard that voice before," said
Allow me.
Holmes, staring down the dimly lit street. "Now I wonder who the deuce that could have been." End of Part 2. Part 3. I slept at Baker Street that night, and we were engaged upon our toast and coffee in the morning when the King of Bohemia rushed into the room.
You have really got it?
He cried, grasping Sherlock Holmes by either shoulder and looking eagerly into his
She has
face.
taken the photograph with
Not
her.
yet.
But you have hopes.
We are beaten.
I have hopes.
Then come. I am all impatience to be gone.
We must have a cab.
No, my brougham is waiting.
Then that will simplify matters. We descended and started off once more for Briony Lodge. Irene Adler is married, remarked Holmes.
Married? When?
Yesterday.
But to whom?
To an English lawyer named Norton.
But she could not love him.
I am in hopes that she does.
And why in hopes?
Because it would spare your Majesty all fear of future annoyance. If the lady loves her husband, she does not love your majesty. If she does not love your majesty, there is no reason why she should interfere with your majesty's plan.
It is true. And yet, well, I wish she had been of my own
To
station.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
What a queen
To be
she
left
would have
until called for.
made.
He relapsed into a moody silence, which was not broken until we drew up in Serpentine Avenue. The door of Briony Lodge was open, and an elderly woman stood upon the steps. She watched us with a sardonic eye as we stepped from
All
the
is
brougham.
lost.
"Mr. Sherlock Holmes, I believe," said she. "I am Mr. Holmes," answered my companion, looking at her with a questioning and rather startled gaze. "Indeed, my mistress told me that you were likely to call. She left this morning with her husband by the 5:15 train from Charing Cross for the Continent." "What?" Sherlock Holmes staggered back, white with chagrin and surprise. "Do you mean that she has left England?" "Never to return."
And the papers?
asked the king hoarsely.
You thought you
All
had
is
won,
lost.
didn't you?
"We shall see." He pushed past the servant and rushed into the drawing room, followed by the king and myself. The furniture was scattered about in every direction, with dismantled shelves and open
Irene
drawers,
Adler.
as if the lady had hurriedly ransacked them before her
Irene
flight.
Adler.
Holmes rushed at the bell pull, tore back a small sliding shutter, and plunging
Let
in
us
his
see what she
hand,
has to say
pulled
to me.
out a photograph and a letter.
You will find your
The
fears are
photograph
groundless.
was of Irene Adler
not fear,
herself
your fears
in
are
evening
groundless.
dress. The letter was
I never for a
superscribed
moment
to
suspected
Sherlock
you.
Holmes, Esquire, to be
At
left
least,
till
not at
called
first.
for. My friend
To Mr.
tore it
Sherlock
open,
Holmes.
and we all three read it together. It was dated at midnight of the preceding night, and ran in this
When
way.
I found myself rushing to the one
"My
thing
dear
I
Mr.
valued
Sherlock
most,
Holmes,
a
you really
suspicion
did it
seized
very
me.
well. You took me in completely.
My dear
Until after the
Mr.
alarm of fire, I had not a
Sherlock
suspicion.
Holmes.
But then, when
I
I
had been
found how
warned
I had
against you,
betrayed
Mr. Holmes.
myself, I
My
began to
name
think.
had been given to the king as the one
I had
person
been
who could
warned
defeat
against
you.
you months ago. I had been told that if the king employed an agent, it would certainly be you. And your address had been given me.
I
Yet,
followed my
with
good
all this,
Samaritan.
you made me reveal what you wanted to know. Even after I became suspicious, I found it hard to think evil of such a dear, kind old clergyman.
I thought to
But,
myself,
you know, I have
the
been
man who could
trained as an
devise such a
actress
plan
myself.
was worthy of
Male
being followed.
costume is nothing
I
new
had
to
some
me.
experience of the stage
I
myself.
often take
I
advantage of
thought
the
I would
freedom
play a
which
little
it
trick of my
gives.
own.
I sent
He
John,
was
the
lying.
coachman, to watch
My
you,
latest acquisition,
ran
the
upstairs,
notorious
got
Sherlock
into my
Holmes
walking
and his
clothes,
Watson.
as I call them, and came down just
And
as
so,
you
I was
departed.
able to confirm that I had been honoured
Well,
with the
I
attention
followed
of the
you to
great
your door,
Sherlock Holmes himself.
and so made sure that I was really an object of interest to the celebrated Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Then I rather imprudently wished you good night, and started for the temple to see my husband.
As for the
We both
photograph, your
thought the
client may
best
rest
resource
assured.
was flight,
I love
when
and am
pursued
loved
by
by a
so
better man than
formidable
he.
an antagonist.
And so the great
So you will
detective was
find
beaten
the
by a
nest
woman's
empty
wit.
when you
I leave you this
call
photograph
tomorrow.
of myself as a memento, lest you should
As
forget
to the
me.
photograph,
I could not resist
your
the
client
temptation
may
of
rest
wishing the
in
great
peace.
detective a good night.
I love and am loved by a better man than he. The king may do what he will without hindrance from one whom he has cruelly wronged. I
As for
keep
the
it
photograph
only
that
to
your client
safeguard
seeks,
myself,
the king may
and
now
to
rest
preserve
easy.
a weapon which will always secure me from any steps which he might take in the future. I leave a photograph which he might care to possess, and I remain, dear Mr. Sherlock Holmes, very truly yours, Irene Norton, née Adler.
You really did it very well.
What a woman!
The whole thing was
what
perfect.
a woman!
Cried the King of
The king
Bohemia
may do as he
when we
will
had
in the
all
future
three
without
read
any
this
hindrance
epistle.
from one whom he has so
Did I
cruelly
not
wronged.
tell you how quick and resolute
I
she
love
was?
And am
Would
loved
she not have
by a
made an
better man
admirable
than he.
queen? Is it not a pity that she was not on my level?
From what I have seen of the lady, she seems indeed to be on a very different level to your Majesty, said Holmes coldly. I am sorry
Safeguard
that I have
myself.
not been able
As
to
an
bring your
insurance policy
Majesty's
in case the
business
king should ever
to a
decide to
more
take any future
successful
action against me.
conclusion.
On the contrary, my dear sir,
Cried the king.
nothing could be more successful. I know that her word is inviolate.
What a woman!
The photograph is now as safe
what a
as if it
woman.
were in the fire.
Would
I
she
am
not have made
glad
an
to hear your
admirable queen?
Majesty say so.
I
Is it
am
not a pity that
immensely
she was not
indebted
on my
to you.
level?
Pray tell me in what way
Indeed,
I can
sir, from
reward
what
you.
I have seen
This
of the lady, she
ring,
appears to be on a very
He
different
slipped
level
an
to your
emerald
Majesty.
snake ring from his finger and held it
Be
out
that
upon
as
the
it
palm
may,
of his
her
hand.
word is sacred. The
Your
photograph
Majesty
is now
has
as safe as
something
if
which
it were
I
in
should
the fire.
value even more
The
highly,
scandal is averted.
said Holmes.
I do
you
not
have
know
but
how
to name
thank you,
it.
Mr. Holmes.
This
I am
photograph.
in your debt forever.
The king stared at him in amazement.
Irene's photograph?
He cried.
Certainly, if you wish it.
I thank your Majesty.
You will do me the
Then
honor
there is
of
no more to be done in the
accepting
matter.
this.
I have the honor to wish you a very good morning. He bowed, and turning away without observing the hand which the king had stretched out to him, he set off in my company for his chambers. And that
You
was how a
have but
great
to name
scandal
it.
threatened to affect the kingdom of Bohemia, and how the best plans of Mr. Sherlock Holmes were beaten by
Then
a
you
woman's
must have
wit.
this ring.
He
Your
used
Majesty
to
has
make
something in
merry
your
over the
possession which I
cleverness
should
of
value
women,
even more
but I
highly.
have not heard him do it of late. And when he speaks of Irene Adler, or when he refers to her photograph, it is always under the honourable title of the woman. End of Adventure 1, A Scandal in Bohemia.
The photograph? But of course. You are most welcome to it.